Lord Dellis, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, John, for having me.
Yeah, no
Honor of a
problem.
lifetime.
I definitely appreciate that. So let's start off with your journey. You're from Minnesota, correct?
Minnesota, yeah. I grew up, I was born,
Okay.
and then I grew up, and then I went to school. And throughout all of that, I've always had kind of this performance bug.
Okay.
For a second, in kindergarten, it was like, oh, I'll be like an artist, like a painter.
Sure.
And then it was something happened in like third grade that was like Broadway. That's what I want, is Broadway.
What happened? Did you go see Broadway?
I
or-
grew up seeing musicals all the time.
Okay. What was your first favorite musical?
The Sound of Music,
Ooh.
a classic.
Yeah.
And there's footage of me at about 5 singing every word to Climb Every Mountain,
Okay.
which, for those who don't know, is one of the hardest songs in the score.
Yeah.
So once again, from an early age, go big or go home.
Right.
And I think it was a natural thing of like, oh, I want to be a performer. I want to do that.
Okay.
And then watching like musical movies like Singing in the Rain and The King and I and Fiddler on the Roof, and then going to see those live. It just was like, it all made sense. I loved to sing.
Yeah.
I loved to be not the center of attention, but I liked when I had attention.
Right.
But I was okay to give it away when
Sure.
when I didn't need it.
Sure.
And kind of a class clown in some regards, but I was always just like a super hard worker. And always had kind of this drive. So it kind of all fit together that there was a point, like I said, in like maybe second or third grade where I was like, okay, so that's done. We know that we're going to be a performer. And at that point it was Broadway, or you'll be in the movies or something like that. Like that was always the case. And then that brought me through elementary school, taking, kids theater camp, and then middle school, you had to kind of start auditioning for things and whatnot, and choir and all that stuff. And then high school, I literally went to my high school because it had a good theater department.
Okay.
That's the, day 1, day 0, like orientation. I was like, okay, where is the theater? I am ready to go. And then 4 years just kind of wanting so badly to be seen by the theater directors and just the theater in general, the people who were, around it. I just wanted them to think that I was good enough to be there. Mm-hmm. And then in college, it was like, that was a major audition process of being
Sure.
like, because there's this whole theater school thing that you might hear about like in the movies or something, like Fame or something like that.
Right.
But it's so intense and it's so scary because I was, while trained, like I'd taken voice lessons and I'd taken dance lessons, but I'm not a dancer.
Sure.
But I knew my way around a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But the people I was going up against they had done, off-Broadway. They had done Broadway. They had so much experience, and I just felt so insignificant and small.
Mm-hmm.
And I auditioned for 10 schools or
Really?
whatever. I got into one,
Okay.
and
Which
that
one?
the Chicago College of the Performing Arts.
Okay.
So that brought me here.
Okay, I was wondering.
I did have like a backup school, like the University of Minnesota had a way that you can get into their theater program where you didn't have to audition until the second year,
Mm-hmm.
and it was kind of a cut program, which is terrifying because you get settled in, and then it's like, okay, let's see if you really have what it takes. But yeah, so it all pointed to Chicago, although it was incredibly expensive and we really didn't have the finances for it, and we still don't. I'm in so much debt for the rest of my life, but it was totally worth it. I don't regret it for a second. And while the school wasn't perfect by any standard, I learned a lot there, and I acknowledged that it had its problems and whatnot, but I really wanted to learn. And for better or worse, I just spent so much time there, and I had work study and all that, so I didn't really leave a lot.
Right.
So because of that, just people would be like, oh, Laura's here, okay. And they'd have conversations with me, or they would tell me about, when I was on Broadway, like my teachers.
Right.
When I was nominated for my Tony, or when I worked with, fill in any famous person, these people had worked with them. And then you just start to develop a relationship and kind of a mentorship for some of them. And I just really, really wanted to get better. And but for so long, I didn't feel like I even belonged there. Like, I was like, everybody's so talented. I don't have that. People are belting to like American Idol, like stratosphere, or soprano, opera, whatever, and then dancing, like, insane. And I just was like, okay, I have to get better. And then, and then I like did get cast the first, round when we were allowed to audition, which was sophomore year. I didn't get cast. I was only one of the few people who just their name wasn't there.
Right.
And, it's like, how do you handle, that's where you really learn, is in situations like that. Like, obviously stakes low, you're in a college production, you didn't get into the college show, but it's like, okay, you didn't get into any schools except one school.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Champions just. Like, we figure it out. And then that semester that I wasn't cast, I went to the director of one of the shows, and because I wanted some feedback, I just was like, I was sad, but I wanted to learn from the experience. Like, what was it? And to be honest, it was nothing. I just didn't fit anywhere.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's literally performing.
Right.
I just didn't fit into any of the roles.
Sure.
But he said, you can come stage manage. You can help assistant stage manage the main stage show. And then you can still be a part of it and the process and whatnot. And I love doing that. And I love still being, amongst the cast, but in a different way. And I really dove into the tech part of it too during school. And like, I TA'd a stage management class, and my work study was in the stage management department. So I love the organization, the thoughtfulness of each, everything that was put into a show that's beyond just acting or singing the song or dancing, whatever.
Absolutely.
And throughout all of this too, comedy was always where I stood out, like every single time. And that's what people would stop me in the hallways, once I did start to get cast. But I never got cast in any leads.
Right.
I'd always have like the second banana is what they call it. It's like the funny sidekick, or like just somebody in the background. But for better or worse, I would get compliments and be like, oh my God, I loved when you were that random background character. You were making me laugh so hard, which I soon learned that shouldn't be the case, because you should be pulling attention.
Right.
But I knew the audience was enjoying what I could feel the energy.
Right.
And
then that's contagious.
Oh my God. And then I was like, people are seeing me. They're seeing me more than ever.
Absolutely.
And then teachers would kind of be like, oh, she's like our little hidden treasure. Like, anytime, and I'm quoting, I'm not saying I was, but they knew that if they put me in a certain role or whatever, that I would help the production.
Sure.
But I had to learn a lot of stuff along the way, and I had to learn how to tone it down and not drive attention from the scene. And like, I even remember I was doing my first kind of like regional gig, like for a summer, and I was doing The Music Man, and a classic. What?
Who were you in Music Man?
I was one of the pick a little, tuck a little, pick a little, tuck a little, which is honestly, that movie growing up was such a big part, so I know it has its controversies, as all Golden Age shows do, but I did like that one. And but I remember like the director, she was like a Broadway woman, like she had done a lot of stuff, and she did a lot of stuff here, and she cast me, and we had a really good relationship and whatnot. And then we were well into the run, like we were like a couple, 3 weeks in or something. And she came into my dressing room, the ladies' dressing room, ensemble dressing room.
If you're there, it's your dressing room.
Yeah, I guess it technically was. And she kind of came over to me, and I was kind of just, being me and doing bits and stuff. And she came over and she said, "Can I talk to you for a sec?" And I was like, "Oh, am I in trouble?" And she was like, "Well," and I was like, "What?" Because I, for better or worse, am not in trouble a lot, because I really want people to like me, and I'm aware of that. But I really try not to get in people's way, and that's a detriment in many regards. But anyway, and she pulled me onto the hall, and she basically was like, I saw the show last night, and I was kind of disappointed in you. And you can only imagine how that went down mentally as a people pleaser. This Broadway woman. And I'm not the music man. I have a cute little moment, but that's it. And she just was like, you're just drawing too much attention. She mentioned one specific scene that, yes, but it was a comedic moment where only a certain amount of people were on stage. It was only like these women and a couple men.
Right.
And we were supposed to be dancing. It was like this interpretive dance. It's very funny. It's supposed to be silly. So I kind of in my head was like, oh, okay, I can go big. This is my moment where I can really, for better or worse, maybe draw more attention to me, and then I'll back away. About Music Man, Harold Hill comes back on. I'm not even in his way. But maybe this one little moment, I can have some fun with it.
Right.
And the audience, I could feel it. They were loving it. And all of the girls were super funny. We were all just having fun. But she thought I was just, I took it too far. And she said I was up all night thinking about how would I tell her? Because she's like, I didn't want to upset you. And keep in mind, instant tears. Yeah. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't want to upstage the performance or the show. And keep in mind, actors walking around us. I'm just, I have full makeup. Have this giant hat on. I'm so sorry. But it was a good lesson. And what did she say to me? She said, you just need to do your own show. And then I was kind of like, okay, but I'm in your show right now. So how, I was kind of like, I don't know if this is the most helpful advice to be giving me, 2 seconds before I'm about to go on stage.
Right. In
my ensemble track, but okay. But that definitely put the idea in my head of because I always have loved solo work, and I've always thought that that's so cool. But it was kind of okay, I need to create my own show to be seen. That's kind of how I took it. And then I went throughout school. And am I talking too much? Is this enough? Okay, I'm really laying it out. And then I graduated and started to audition, for a theater in Chicago. Hadn't really touched comedy yet. I started to take classes at I.O.
Well, let me take you back real fast, because I know you were in the mindset of going to college, so obviously you were going to be leaving Minnesota one way or another.
Yeah.
What was the ranking? I mean, obviously you wanted to perform somewhere.
Yeah.
Obviously New York had to cross your mind. Los Angeles had to cross your mind.
Of course.
Was it, if you would have gotten into schools, let's say you would have gotten into schools in New York, Chicago, and LA, where would you have gone?
New York was always the goal. Always the goal, to be honest.
Still?
Yeah.
Sure.
I see myself in the next couple of years. I've always said though, I want to move to New York with something.
Sure.
I don't want to just pack up my bags and be like, all right, I'm moving to New York.
Right.
Because I know too many people, and they made it work, but they were not in good conditions and stuff like that. I totally respect them for that, but I know myself, and I want to work around that if I can.
Absolutely.
And the big thing was I wanted to go to NYU. I really wanted to go to Tisch, which is one of the best acting schools. And when I say performing too, I meant acting, like musical theater, acting, whatever. And I remember I had the senior girl in high school. She went to NYU, and I thought she was so cool. And I was a freshman, and she was so cool, and she was the best actor I'd ever seen in the whole wide world. Paige Batterby, you know who you are. And she was so cool. And all I wanted was to go to NYU and be like her. And she was booking things, and she was going to parties with the Sprouse twins from Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, because they went to NYU. Little did you know. And I wanted that.
I knew where the Sprouse twins were.
Okay, all right. I should have known. Anyway, so I started to look into NYU, and then you start looking into LA. Although I didn't look as much, because I was thinking theater.
Right.
So theater tends to be New York.
Sure.
LA definitely has it. It's just not as It's more on camera stuff. So NYU though, super expensive.
Right.
Like so expensive. And then I was talking to this girl, Paige, and I was like, because I kind of kept in contact with her throughout my time in high school because I wanted to get her experience and her take on it. And she came from like a really wealthy family, and she could barely afford it.
Wow.
And they barely gave her a scholarship, and she was so talented. And I just realized, I was like, I don't. And then they, like 1,000 people, over 1,000 people apply for it, and they take like 15 people, if that. And it just was like a decision of like, I'll get there someday.
Sure.
I can't afford this right now.
Right.
I could barely afford this school.
Right.
And like I'm middle class, you know, like I'm, you know, fine financially for the most part, but it's like that my dad lost his job and my mom lost her job, and it was just like, it's not going to work. But I knew I still wanted to be an actor. I just had to put it on. I had to find a different path to
Sure.
it. It wasn't going to be moving to New York right after high school.
Right.
So, but I'm so happy though that I came here. I love Chicago.
I can't pull myself away, even though I know you do me wrong. Do me wrong. Do me wrong. I can't pull myself away, even though I know you do me wrong. Do me wrong. Do me wrong. I can't pull myself away, even though you do me wrong.
Ba-boom, ba-boom. Bazooka's out, loaded, as they say. The bazooka fully loaded.